Admiral, radar shows that we have liberals approaching at 3 o'clock, and libertarians at 9 o'clock, and conservatives at 6 o'clock. They're coming from every angle, every viewpoint. Oh, it's Political Radar with your hosts, Rhonda and Elliot.
Hey, all you political junkies. Welcome to Political Radar, the best 30 minutes of unscripted, uncensored political talk you will hear all day. I'm Rhonda, sitting here with my co-host, Elliot.
Hi there.
Hello. We are heading into episode 8. Big episode.
Yeah, it's the one we're all waiting for.
Well, okay, another pool episode, Poolgate. That's what it is, Poolgate. We have one of the biggest players in Poolgate sitting with us today, Alderman Chris Wery. Hello.
Good morning. Good afternoon. I guess it could be anytime. Thanks for having me on.
It can be anytime. Welcome to your evening. This is Chris.
So, all seriousness.
It can't be too serious.
I love the Poolgate, though.
We have something called Poolgate. We can't be too serious.
Well, I mean, okay, so we're going to revisit this again. And we talked about with people, this is an important issue. We spent a lot of time talking about it because of the fact that it's been almost 5 years, ongoing conversations, meetings, a lot of stuff happening with that. There's a lot of money at stake. There are a lot of people that really want this pool. So we're looking forward to having you explain to us what your take is on it right now, what you think is potentially going to happen. Maybe you can make sense of Tundra Lodge. I personally do not think that was a real proposal. I think I've made that pretty clear. I think it was a front to derail what was happening. I'm
going to give my 30-second recap of what Poolgate is.
Yeah.
in my eyes.
Yeah, but this is where I sit with this. Elliot will give his recap, and then we'd love to hear from you, Alderman Wery, what you think about this.
She never stops.
I'd love to chime in.
Okay, so in my view, here's what Poolgate is. Over the last 5 years, and I'm not exactly sure who they is, so that's something we can address. The Colburn Pool has needed some renovations or to be shut down because it's end of life. It's old. And so there's been proposals and there's been money discussed back and forth. There's been money raised by a nonprofit group. And so there's a question as to if things go south, what happens to that? And then there was the Tundra Lodge proposal, which may or may not have been smoke and mirrors. Don't really know.
Proposal.
Where Tundra Lodge said, that kind of came in at the 11th hour and said, hey, we have a hotel. We'd like to do a major expansion. We bought some property, and we would like to have this Olympic pool as part of our offering to customers. So with that, kind of correct my timeline where I'm wrong and fill in the gaps there a little bit, Chris.
No, I think you're you're right on track. This really started back, I think, in 2011 when a loose group of people started realizing the pool was going to go away pretty shortly. So they started collecting signatures, headed by Lori Crooks and the Friends group, and they got, I think, 1,000 signatures with their daughter. And Jesse Burnett was alderman for 2 years, and he really did a good job of keeping the public focus on it. When I got elected, the first thing I did was put in a request to hire an architect, an engineer, somebody to put together some concepts of what a new pool might look like. And that was Raymaker. And in that 2012, we held meetings at the pool. The mayor was there, a lot of people from the public, the neighborhood association, took a lot of input. And over the course of the summer and into the fall, we honed it down. All his 3 first concepts, and I brought it. I know I have visuals for radio, but all those concepts had an Olympic pool. That's what the public stated they wanted, to keep it, because that's what it is now. I get a lot of feedback, people saying, why are you building an Olympic-sized pool? Well, it is one. We're not building one.
So that is an excellent clarification that I don't think most people did know.
I agree. A lot of people will say, why are you building an Olympic-sized pool? Well, it is one. All the pools in Green Bay were an Olympic pool.
And that's 50 meters.
Yes. Yeah. It actually, the proposed pool is smaller than the existing pool. Right now it's 10 lanes wide, and the new one would be 8 lanes wide. It's actually getting a little smaller. So we're not building something a lot bigger. It's actually getting a little smaller. It's just adding that zero depth entry, which is great for access and younger crowd. So their initial estimates ranged from I think 4.1 million to 5.1 million on those very, very preliminary concepts. As we all know now, we were required to raise $1 million, which we did after a year of very hard work. That was a lot of work.
Okay, and who's we?
The Friends of Colburn, and all the people therein. We held fundraisers. Frank Hermans let us split the proceeds from one of his shows. That was kind of our initial one. Then we went to the Riverside Ballroom and had a kickoff event there. And then we just went full steam into asking. And we've had great people step up, like Mr. Dahlin, Mr. and Mrs. Dahlin. It'll be the Dahl and Lindahl pool. Mr. and Mrs. Lindahl are giving the other half. So when we finally got around to hiring the actual architect, he said, it's been a year or two. Those initial costs are going to be higher. I think he threw out there $6.8 million is what he thought. And so we had a big gap of what we were initially told and what this next engineer told us. And then caused some of the controversy and commotion after that. We speaking of Tundra Lodge, we were about to go before the stadium board, which they hand out money to the community for projects. And we were on their agenda, I think, for a Thursday. That Tuesday, big announcement came out. Tundra Lodge was building an Olympic-sized pool 2 days before our agenda. And then they tabled it because they wanted to learn more. So our friends group met with Tundra Lodge. Several of us went to Tundra Lodge and met with them, and they had no plans, nothing, not even really an idea of what they wanted to do, just kind of a fuzzy, we think we want to do an Olympic pool, but no other details of any kind. So we just kept going on our way. And they kind of disappeared into the background until literally a couple weeks ago when they popped up again. So I really do give them credit. I think I've been all along pretty complimentary of their expansion plans. It's really going to be nice for that area for what they're doing. I just don't agree with the Olympic-sized pool.
Why do you think the pool came on, like all of a sudden, this proposal? What do you think that was?
Well, personally, I think it was our fearless leader behind that, but
I had nothing to do with that.
You're asking me my opinion? I'm not afraid to give it. I think the mayor had something to do with that. I'm sure he put a bug in their ear and said, hey, why don't you also look at this, whether it was real or not?
But is that a bad thing?
Well, when it's not real and it's just meant to derail the project, yeah, it's a bad thing.
Okay, do
you think that's it?
You think that?
Yeah, I mean, now we're behind schedule. We were hoping to start construction this fall and open next spring, and now that's looking more and more in doubt, like it might have to be delayed a year.
So do you believe that Tundra Lodge is gone? They're not coming back? There's nothing that's going to happen with that proposal?
Never say never. I think if you're around long enough, something could always pop back up, or they could be enticed to come back. I think they're done with it. I think they've gotten enough public feedback, people calling them and saying, hey, knock it off, or we're not going to come to your place. And they got a lot more. It wasn't me. It was the public speaking out.
So at this point, they're gone.
Right.
We're waiting for bids to come back.
Yeah.
And what do you believe the next steps are going to be? And are you prepared to hear a number that doesn't look very ideal?
Well, the bid documents are being prepared, like you said, and that'll be put out to bid. We've heard from a lot of people who are saying these numbers, the estimated 6.1 to 6.5 now, is high. It'll be less. It'll be less than that. It'll be somewhere maybe between 5 and 6. And so that's what we're counting on.
And how long does that take to actually get those numbers back?
Well, the bid documents, we're hoping will go out this summer at some point, and it'll take a good month to get the bids back. So we should know by the end of summer, maybe early fall.
So let's just put this out there. What if the bids come back, the council, let's just say they don't vote that they, to accept that? What's the future look like for Colburn Pool?
Well, let's say the amount comes back at $5.5 million. Okay, so we obviously have $1 million gap because the council did commit and did follow through with $3.5 million in borrowing. With our millions, $4.5 million. I've had an ongoing request now, I think forever, to use up to $1 million from the stadium tax refund money. That debate hasn't happened yet because we don't know if we need it. We also had $1 million in surplus revenue from last year, a great year, and we still have, I think, about $750,000 of that. So we would not have to borrow more at all. We could stick to our original plan.
Okay, I have so much to say about this now.
Go.
So the surplus, does that have something to do with maybe not paying to fix the roads that need fixing?
No, I think that's just our estimated expenses, where they came in were less, and so we had a lot of extra. Whether
so if we have an extra $1 million, I would say we should fix some roads.
I agree.
Because I've heard that complaint over and over
Yes.
and over again. Not my road. I'm all good, but there are roads that need to be fixed.
And to that extent is why I put in a request last week to look at how we fund our roads. I think the way we fund our roads right now is causing us to delay and not do our roads.
How do we fund our roads?
We assess,
Yeah,
the residents on each side of the road pay a portion and the city pays the rest.
So it's idiotic because if you think about it, the most traveled roads have the people that are least equipped to pay for those roads. With the possible exception of like commercial corridors or something, right? But people that live on, I don't know, I'm not picking on anybody, but if somebody lives on Mason Street, they're probably not wealthy. And that's sort of a problem.
That's right. And roads in older, poorer areas, all the residents or the landlords are saying, no, we don't need to fix this road. And they put it off, and eventually it drops off the list of repairs.
Yeah.
So you might
That's
have
the other problem with renters.
You might have 10 roads that need repaired, but if 3 of them get knocked off every year, you're just falling behind. I reached out to Schwabenon and Howard and De Pere. None of them assess. They all borrow for the roads. They put their list out and they do them so they don't fall behind. So
is there is this like a possibility that actually might be happening in Green Bay?
Well, it's going to committee, and I think we're going to study it and see if there's a better way to do this because something needs to be done. Yeah.
Well, and I think the average taxpayer thinks that's the way we do it in Green Bay until they get the little thing in the mail.
Right.
So how much stadium tax money are you asking for if this is what you end up having to do?
My request was for up to $1 million. So
Okay.
I think it fits the bill of exactly what was laid out. Borrow less. And because of the swim meets, it does meet the economic activity.
Really?
Elliot wants to. He's smirking over there.
Elliot, you're up.
You just
All right, unload.
You just bait me. Okay, did you see my math? Tell me how my math is wrong.
Remind.
Okay. So there were some discussions.
I talk with my hands a lot. So if you hear silence, I'm talking with my hands.
So do I. So do I, Brian Danziger. So do I. Okay, so I know nobody actually knows. These are all estimates. But so that's sort of the point. We can't count on those numbers for economic development. So I hear these numbers of 400,000 to 800,000 per swim meet that this is going to. Okay, so
Sure.
So we agree on that.
When we first put this together, I approached Brad Toll of the Visitor Convention Bureau, and he gave me those numbers. He said there's groups that study this around the country, and he shows that is the number per swim meet that it would bring in.
Into where?
Into the area. Now, if it's
well, he's not for just Green Bay. We're talking about Green Bay tax dollars. I think most of that money is going to benefit Ashwaubenon.
Well, if it's at Tundra Lodge, I'm sure it would. But if it's on Military Avenue, back with the previous director, we were starting to work hand in hand with giving out booklets to people who attended swim meets. Hey, come eat lunch, come shop, come do all these things on Military. It's right around the corner. I think it'd be a big boon for Military.
Okay, so I don't have a chart in front of me, but I heard, and I don't buy any of these numbers, okay? So 600 families per swim meet. I don't buy that, number one, because we have to have an Olympic-sized swimming pool for swim meets in Green Bay because we can't go all the way 20 miles down the road to Appleton. Okay, fine. But then where are all these people from outside of the community coming from? Don't know, but supposedly it's 600. 600 families. I'm estimating that's a family of 4. It could be a family of 2, but we're going to say 4, okay? I multiplied all the numbers out. Every single one of them stays 1.5 nights in a hotel. I don't even know where there's really hotels right around Military, but okay, that's cool. Somehow that's going to come to Green Bay. I don't see it. And then money spent at restaurants. I said if they each spend $300 at restaurants, it still doesn't add up. So I don't know where they come. I believe if you have fuel and they have to stay 2 nights, yeah. And if you include the entire local economy, sure. But we're spending millions of dollars in a town of 100,000 people. So I just do some simple division, and that every $1 million is a lot of money to me. That's a big deal, and you may not agree with that, but I feel like something's out of whack there. And what is interesting is nobody's ever held accountable after the fact for this stuff. And the other thing is, we're talking about construction costs. Nowhere in there do I see maintenance costs and staffing costs wrapped into that. So you have the floor.
Well, obviously the numbers are from Brad Toll, so that's something I put together, and it's really based on a 3-day event: Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's a full 3-day event, and I've actually heard closer to 1,000 people when you work in all the coaches and just the number of people. And if you talk to Dave Course from the Y or Amanda Tuttle from the Green Bay Swim Club, it's probably closer to 1,000 people for a 3-day event. So maybe that'll help your numbers a little bit, Elliot.
Okay.
And the operational cost, that's factored in yearly. That's just part of your annual city budget, as is Colburn right now.
Right, but if the alternative is to shut it down, right?
Certainly.
Then it'd be zero.
Yeah, well, we could definitely shut down Joanne's and Fisk too.
Well, I
Save a lot of money.
don't think we have to throw the baby out.
All right, I'm just saying, you want parks that come with the cost.
Yeah. So everyone that lives in Green Bay is within 5 miles of one of those 2 existing water parks. Everyone. So do we need a third pool? And I understand we're on the hook for it. That's totally cool. But I don't want to build a water park. But if it's going to go over the 4.5 million, which it sounds like it is, I'm really leery of this Olympic pool. Mostly because I see it only being used 10 weeks out of the year.
So I have a question. Can I jump in, please? So the last meeting, the council voted to bond, right? They approved the $3.5 million.
Yes. Yep.
So that's in there.
Yeah.
Okay. So now what? So let's say for some reason they don't go with the Olympic size pool for Colburn. Are you going to proceed with a smaller pool?
Well, then you'd hear from the community and all the stakeholders who were involved with the Friends of Colburn, the people who did all the work and the donors saying, hey, you know what? The delay in forcing us to fundraise is what caused this price to go up in part, and maybe a bad estimate to begin with. I think you'll see pushback to say, build it. It might be a little bit more, but build it. What's the use in having another pool similar to Resch or Joanne's? What was special about Colburn is that it's special. It's an Olympic-sized pool.
Well,
we're just rebuilding it.
So when I was a kid, it was special because it had high dive. Is there going to be a high dive?
No, I don't think any of our pools anymore, I think due to safety issues.
It was safe. I'm still here.
I remember the Colburn high dive.
Absolutely.
8, 9 a.m. in the morning, you're freezing, standing up at the top. Yeah.
And I'm like, go, Weary, go.
Weicker was probably there too. You had him on the show. He did a nice job. I graduated with Brent from West. Our lockers were by each other. He's an awesome guy.
So question
he's
about
evading.
this then. It's okay though. So then a smaller pool possibly comes in. You said community there might be some sort of uprise where they demand the Olympic size pool. What are the votes right now? Do you think you have the votes for the Olympic size pool? What's the conversation like out there?
Yeah, I do. I think the votes are there. I think they see the commitment that was made to the people who worked so hard and to the community. I mean, I brought the visuals because it showed the meetings we had to begin with at the pool and at the Parks Committee and over and over and over. And people said, we don't want another little pool. We don't want an aquatic center. We want the Olympic-sized pool. That's what makes it special. And that was over and over and over. I mean, that's not everyone. You're never going to get everyone to agree on one thing.
Well, I think that the number of people that are saying Olympic pool or bust is a lot smaller than maybe you think. Certainly compared to the uproar of all of this. If I heard it's going to be an Olympic pool and it's in budget and it's approved, well, that's cool. But now we're going over budget. And because we delayed by, I don't know, a year, it's up 50%. Like that, I don't know, that all seems kind of fishy too. So I'm like, how about we scale it down? The reason we want community pools is for kids to have something to do in the summer, right?
Well, Colburn, because of its size, is the number one pool for swim lessons. It's the busiest. It's the best place to learn how to swim because of its length.
But we don't need an Olympic pool for that.
We don't, but it does benefit. And we actually, I think a year or two, I put in a request that we actually start our season in May. The swim clubs can start renting it in May because they don't need lifeguards. They do it themselves. So we'll actually start generating revenue a couple weeks early, trying to keep it open later, or at least one pool. If you can consolidate, if you're running out of lifeguards, keep one open later till Labor Day or into September.
How many hours of the day will the public be able to use that pool compared to, let's say, the swim teams?
Sure. Well, the swim teams actually come in before it's open. So I think they're 6 a.m., 6 to 8 a.m. They're there when it's pretty chilly and the sun's just coming up.
So that's my other question. If we're going to have a cost overrun anyway, why don't we have it at least a cover over the top, or have it somehow enclosed so that it can be used in more inclement weather?
Well, I guess two reasons. We talked about it briefly, but really there wasn't much sentiment for it. And the whole reason of having an outdoor pool is you're out in the sun, under the trees, and the cost. I mean, you're going to really add to your cost, and then you're really...
So how many times did we meet up at Colburn Park in the summer?
I believe we had 2 or 3. Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, I mean, I mean, like okay, so I'm thinking
You mean as kids?
Yeah, when I was a kid, we went there a handful of times, I know that there's diehards, that there are people that'll go there almost every day for the 10 weeks of summer, but like that's it. And I have a hard time spending an extra $1 million on something that's outdoors in the frozen tundra. The name of our town is the frozen tundra.
Not much we can do about that.
No, there isn't.
But it is there. It's been there for 50 years. And once we start taking things out of Green Bay, reasons for families to stay or to move here, they'll move to Howard. They'll move to Schwabenon. We need to keep these things here so people can live by.
So we
by
need a
these
community
amenities.
pool. But I don't think anybody went to Colburn Park for the intention of it being a lap swimming pool, outside of like swimming lessons.
So we had an Alderman Joe Moore was on the show earlier and said that you can actually have a swim competition at 25 meters. Is that true?
You can. However, I guess that is more of the winter swim meets that are held indoors. According to the swim clubs, you don't see those in summer. That's the long track in summer. So And it feels like we're having a debate that we've had years ago. So really, I think we just need to get those bids in and see where it's at. And then we can debate, all right, is it 5.5? Is it 5? Now we're talking $500,000 more than anticipated. Is that really, do we need to fight about that?
Absolutely. Well, and the other thing is estimates were all over the place from what I read. So like I saw up to 8.5. And so then I'm like, no.
Well,
So you have to have a dollar figure where you say no.
Grafe, our current architect, I think his initial estimate was 6.8. And then as you saw, he trimmed that back to maybe 6.1 or 6.5. He's even kind of hedging. And we're hearing from, some of the pool builders in the area who swear they can build it for less. So, I'm challenging, build it for less.
So you think you have the votes. So really this is, I mean, it's a moot point because if you think you have the votes for this, it's more than likely going to go through.
What if it comes back at 7?
And I don't want to speak for the other people, but I know there is support for the Olympic-sized pool. The only thing that would bust it is if the numbers came in higher than expected.
Right, I support it at $2 million. I supported it at $2 million.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. So we can move on. So you alluded to the stadium tax, that you want to use some of the money for the pool. I disagree with you. However, beyond that, what else should we be using it for?
Well, I did put out a survey, asking people what they think it should be used for. And the number one was, as Alderman Vanderlee said, give it back directly to people. Now, that's a difficult thing to do fairly. I mean,
and
just give
can
it.
Can we clarify how much? Because now it was 5.4. Now it's 4.2.
You're right. Yeah, we did pay off some debt and saved some yearly payments that way. So compliment Alderman Moore.
4.2 million.
Right.
That we're talking about. Right.
Total.
Yeah. Right.
The other comments that came back were infrastructure, streets, and then parks, and Colburn in my area was in the top 4. Everything else, the ballpark was last.
So was this an open-ended survey where they could just write in, or did you actually have an A, B, C check?
I gave, I think, 8 items, and then I put several spaces for your idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I didn't get the survey because I'm not in your district.
I'm sorry.
I'm in District 9.
Well, hey, good for you.
Okay, so I wasn't asked. But I'm going to tell you. So I have this idea, and this came to me in a flash. Because the money's supposed to be used for economic development in some way. So either that's paying off debt or giving it back somehow or doing something to...
I just wanted to jump in here, but I find it, and I'm sure you do too, pretty offensive that the state has to tell us how we can use our own money.
Oh, that's a whole other
Here's
thing.
your money back. Use it as you see fit and answer to the people who live there. But no. We got to tell you how to use it.
Well,
that's horrible.
I think that was directed at Milwaukee, but I don't know. Okay, so I would like you to comment. We don't have a ton of time left, and I'm sorry about that. But I would like to hear your thoughts on my proposal of let's start an entrepreneur fund and do something Shark Tank style, so it's public, And so we're talking about $4.2 million left, okay? And I'm not going to take the million off for you. We're going to keep 4.2 for now. But
Then I'm against it.
But yeah, I know. So, but even if we go to 3.2.
Oh, there we go. All right, now I'm interested.
Okay, so to entrepreneurs, a startup fund or a line of credit of $50,000 is the difference between a successful business and a non-starter. So I believe we could have 10 businesses come every year, probably forever, and make their pitch for $25,000 to $50,000. And they make their pitch, and there's, so we have some kind of volunteer committee of, alder people and maybe some citizens, whatever. And we make it as public as we can make it so that it's not behind closed doors. It's not sweetheart deals to the solar industry or anything like that, right? And
or paybacks for political friends, or
exactly. So it's a public committee, and everybody can talk about it. But if you just do the simple math, let's say it's an average of $30,000 times 10, that's $300,000. We could do that for 10 years off the 3.2. So what do you think?
Very interesting idea. I don't know if I'd be in favor of using all of it for that. Maybe a portion, and you have maybe 2 or 3 businesses a year come
How
forward.
are we going to decide who these businesses are?
We do it Shark Tank style. They come with proposals. The problem is, like right now, you could say, well, you can get SBA loans and you can do this and that. That's fiction for the most part. Go up and down and talk to small business owners. Getting funding for small businesses is super difficult if you're not in manufacturing. So if you're in any sort of normal, modern 21st century business, it's super hard to start a business, any kind of business. And you need working capital for any kind of business just to meet payroll or whatever during a down period or a seasonal effect that you didn't know about because you're new in business. So I feel like if it's supposed to be for economic development, there's nothing that could be bigger than directly funding businesses. And of course, I would tie it to, hey, you're committing to stay in Green Bay for X amount of time, or you have to pay it back. And so there can be stipulations, and then they have to pay it back. So like there's a risk because some of them are going to go out of business, whatever. But economic development, I don't know what we're supposed to be doing with.
Someone's raising their hand. It's not me.
Okay.
You talk plenty.
I do want to. I think that's a very fascinating idea. Let's just say you take Elliot's idea and it's on the table with all these other ideas, rather than showing up at committee meeting and saying, "Hi, I'm alderman of this district and I want this. This is where I want the money to go to." What is the plan that the council has to actually make the decision? Is there a list of criteria that's out there? Is there anything that you have, because it's supposed to be used for economic development? We've got all these different ideas of what people want to do with it. Now we're down to 4.2 million. What is the plan that the city council has to spend this money? Other than just vote through and have 15-hour committee meetings.
You're right. Well, I think we saw the mayor's plan was to pretty much use it all for the stadium. So that was kind of his plan.
Which is complete BS, by the way.
I don't think that's on the table anymore.
No,
Well, it better not be. That's another 10-week out of the year amenity. It's bullshit.
150 days.
Sorry, Chris.
No. And I think as far as the aldermen were concerned, they probably just brought things forward as they got feedback or thought of an idea. I don't think there ever was a real certain way of doing it. I think
So
Alderman Gavel
who's going to take the lead and actually say, "Hey, guess what? We have this list of criteria. We're going to take something that could, span over 2 years of conversation to spend this money. We're going to actually shorten this up, clean it up, and we're going to take this list of criteria and we're going to make this list and we're going to make a decision." Who's going to lead that?
I think Alderman Galvin just started doing that. And however long that takes, hopefully not too long, but you're still going to have a list. So let's say you had 100 things and now you're down to 40
Well,
things.
I think we should knock off all the things that are only for 10 weeks. That's step one.
But seriously, this is something I've been wondering, and I've not really heard anybody really talk about, okay, we need to do this is different than this is how we're doing this.
I think partly is maybe some of the aldermen really, I want to say fearful, but they've been hesitant to jump into it to say, I think it should be used for this or that for whatever reason. I'm not afraid of doing that. I think it should be used for the pool.
Right. Well,
Part
you know
of
what? So kudos on that, because at least you have an idea. So to be fair, even if I disagree, I can't disagree with somebody who doesn't bring forward any ideas.
And even Alderman Vanderleest, he had a campaign promise and he saw a way of using it and he's sticking to that,
Right. And I respect that. Yeah. Oh, we have to wrap up.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Okay. So Chris, so if anybody would like to get in touch with you, How should they go about doing that?
They can just call me, or I'm on the city website,
Okay.
Chris Wery at att.net.
Okay.
Or if you link on the city website, that's my official Alderman email.
Okay.
And you also have a Facebook page.
I do, yeah. Alderman Chris Wery, District 8, yep.
Okay, so they can look you up online. Or
You bet.
call. Okay.
Any questions? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me on.
And
Thanks
so
for
this
coming
is
on.
this is a Political Radar episode number 8. You can find me on Twitter and on Facebook. On Twitter, I'm Elliot, Elliot, and Rhonda is,
At Sitnicow.
and that's it. We're out.
If you enjoyed this episode of Political Radar, please share it with your friends on Facebook and Twitter. Even better, submit a show review to iTunes or Stitcher. To listen to other episodes of Political Radar, please visit politicalradar.com/episodes. To support our podcast, please visit our sponsors who make the show possible. You can do this by visiting politicalradar.com/sponsors.
Thanks for listening to Political Radar. To ensure that you never miss an episode, subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. To stay up to date, visit politicalradar.com or connect with us on Facebook or Twitter.
This episode of Political Radar is brought to you by ReleaseWire. ReleaseWire is a powerful media engagement service connecting businesses to journalists and bloggers. If you need to get the word out about your business, ReleaseWire is an effective and affordable way to reach journalists and bloggers who are truly interested. And we have a special offer for you today. Submit your first on-demand press release with ReleaseWire and save 25% by entering the discount code PoliticalRadar. That's PoliticalRadar. ReleaseWire, from release to results.
Political Radar is a proud member of the Newsmakers Podcast Network, an ever-growing network of podcasts covering a wide range of topics. Check them out at npcn.tv.